This is how to link your hardware controllers to sliders and things inside FL Studio. Make sure in the MIDI settings you can see your controller, make sure they are enabled, and make sure when you move the controls, in the top left it comes up with a little icon here showing you that FL Studio is seeing something coming through. So, to set up a simple link, what we're going to do is we're going to wiggle the controller, we're going to click this, and then we're going to move that. That way, we have set up a simple link between our hardware controller and this particular slider, which happens to be expression, as it shows in the top left here. This only works for the violin I've set it to. If I go to brass, you'll see here it's still changing the one on the violin. So this isn't particularly useful for our most used sliders. We want to make them generic. So I'm going to unset this by wiggling the controller, clicking this, and resetting that control. It's now unbound, and when I move it, it's not doing anything. I'm going to do the same binding, but using generics. So I'm going to move this, I'm going to move my controller, override generic link, and move the controller again. This way, that's linked to that on the violin, and if we tab over to the brass, it's going to move the same control on a different instrument. That way, if we have lots of, for example, BBCSO instruments, all we have to do is select a new instrument and it will control a different control. We won't have to keep making links every time we want to play something different. This can work for multiple sliders at once, so if I move this, move the second controller, override generic link, move the controller again, you can see I can control both of these at once, and move over to the brass, where both of these can move. You might have done this before, but you might have also noticed that Kontakt doesn't seem to work well with this because you're doing it through MIDI Outs. So I'm going to set up Kontakt through MIDI input, it's very MIDI port 0, as I usually would. I'm going to load up some instruments, let's say 2 brass, and I'm going to load up 2 MIDI Outs, channel 1 and channel 2 on the right ports. So if I play this, that's playing the first one, that's playing the second. But when we wiggle our MIDI CC, nothing's happening in these. Basically, this is because the knobs here are what have to be sent into Kontakt in order for you to control them. So to get the CC information out of Kontakt, if you right-click it, it'll tell you what CC number it is. So dynamics is on CC1, tightness is on 18, expression is on 11. Personally, I only use dynamics and expression commonly. If I'm going to automate these, I'd set up a per project link, for example. But we're going to set up generic links for dynamic and expression. So on the MIDI output 1, we're going to go here. We're going to configure this as dynamics, and we're going to put it on CC1, just like we saw here when we right-clicked it. That number goes here. Now, if I move this, you can see that this slider up here is moving with it. And if we go to the second MIDI out, I'm going to do the same for that one too. Dynamics, MIDI controller 1, and that one moves for that one. So, it still doesn't work with our hardware controllers, and that's because we have to set up generic links with this knob in particular. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move the same controller that I had for the dynamics here. I'm going to move that. I'm going to move this. I'm going to set up a generic link and move that control again. Now you can see it's moving with my controller. So that's also, you might notice on the other one, it's not moving unless it's selected. That way, all you have to do is select the correct MIDI out, and you can control the dynamics automatically in Kontakt. I'm going to set up another one here just for proof. Expression, controller 11, which is the one we saw over here when we right-clicked. That does the job. I'm going to move this, move the controller, override generic link, and then move the controller again. And now I've got two knobs, or sliders, that are controlling dynamics and expression in Kontakt, and if I tab over to something else, they're controlling the same controls in a different plugin. Now, setting up these could be a little bit boring, so what you can do when you've got these all set out for the instruments you know you want to use, you can go here, save preset as, list it as a name, and then in here you can click presets and find it in this list. I've called mine Kontakt Instruments Out, which I'm now going to load up on the second one because we didn't do that there. And because I already set up the generic for the expression here, it's going to work on this instrument as well. You have to note, it'll reset the channel when you load a preset. And that's about it.